I encourage everyone to take a moment and breathe and take a tea cheers with a Jiri tea. A Jiri tea recognizes the beauty in shared stories and shared opportunities. Ajiri sources award-winning tea from Kenya, employs women in the region to handcraft the labels, and sends 100% of the profits back to the region to support orphan education. Save 10% on your order of Kenyan teas and coffee with the code BeautifullyHuman at ajiritea.com. AJIRIT.com. Tea mugs up. Hello and welcome to the Beautifully Human podcast. I'm Nick Sheesby. In this podcast, I speak with beautiful humans from all around the world, sharing with you their incredible stories, revealing the power in every human story, to spread love and humanity to a world that is in desperate need of it, to show that we can all connect in beautiful ways, no matter where we come from or what we look like. What you will find out is that we are all beautifully human. Let's all be beautifully human. Thank you again for joining me on the Beautifully Human podcast. Today I am talking to an amazing, badass woman, Rose Hollerman, and she has an amazing journey that has taken her all over the world. And I won't go into the details, but this one is truly incredible. We have some commonalities in a sport that we both love and play. She has played it far longer than I have and gotten far further than I have with it. But we have a very fun conversation. It's just a really mind-blowing, beautiful conversation. So enjoy. And if you enjoy this podcast, follow on Spotify and on Instagram at the Beautifully Human Podcast. Rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. It just helps us get all these stories out to more people, which is beautiful. And again, enjoy this conversation. So I like to start these off, and I love to just make it a very broad statement and let you run with it and just say, tell me a story of your life.
That is a broad one. So I'm born and raised from Minnesota. I grew up in a small town 5 miles outside of like a town of like 500 people in southern Minnesota. I'm a country girl. I grew up with 3 older brothers. Normal little childhood. When I was 5 years old, I was in a car accident with my family that took the lives of 2 of my older brothers and then also left me partially paralyzed from the waist down. And then kind of from becoming disabled, I have 2 extremely strong and passionate parents that I'm super grateful for that got me into adaptive sports and kind of have used that my entire life to just be competitive. And it's been the vehicle to take me around the world. It's brought me to college and at the University of Texas in Arlington, where I have a degree in elementary teaching. And then now it's taken me across the little pond and I live in Spain and am playing professional wheelchair basketball. I'm also a 2-time Paralympian in wheelchair basketball.
It's amazing. That's so amazing. And so you were 5. So when the accident happened, were you wheelchair bound right away, or how was that journey from then on?
So I'm currently not wheelchair bound. I use a wheelchair to get around kind of as a way to manage my pain, and just it's tiring, exhausting for me to walk around. But initially I was wheelchair bound. I spent a year doing extensive therapy and all of my childhood going to different therapy sessions and just always having to fight to just be able to walk and keep the little bit of ability that I had. But it's like through progress and through kind of my nerves regrowing, I'm relatively mobile on my feet currently. But definitely that process of having to relearn to walk was trying, but worth it.
Yeah, no kidding. I can't even imagine. I was speaking to someone the other day, and he was talking about how he was watching people walk to relearn how to walk, and I was just thinking the things you take for granted of just simply standing up and walking to do whatever I need to go do, and then having to think about relearning to walk, and especially at such a young age when you're just learning all these, you're learning about the world and learning about life, and then having to figure that out too. I mean, that's
Actually
unbelievable.
think the being young and in that state of just like growth, it was actually really good for me. Because I was always just, you're 5, you're learning, everything's new and different, and you have such a like positive perspective on life that being so young and having to go through those things, I actually think probably made it easier on me.
That's true, yeah. Because as a kid, I always say I go snowboarding and I see a kid fall, and I'm like, oh my god, that would wreck me. I would be done for a very long time, and they just pop back up because they're just like, whatever. There's no fear. They don't care. They're just rolling. So I imagine that is very true. Of just, yeah, you're new. You're new to the world, so you're just learning and learning everything.
Yeah, everything's new and shiny and fun. I loved
How?
therapy growing up.
What's that?
I loved going to physical therapy growing up. So that's it's kind of weird. It was such a struggle, but it was actually something I really enjoyed.
Yeah. How were your friends and the other kids when all that was going on?
Um, well, like I said, from a small town, so kind of the like death of my 2 brothers was something that the whole community kind of rallied around my family and gave support to my parents and everyone, which was really incredible and beautiful to see. But I mean, growing up with a disability, it definitely like peer relationships and interactions are always a little bit difficult because you don't know, you kind of like don't realize that you're different, so you don't like try to work around it, but also like other kids see that you are different, and they don't know how to handle that yet. So
Sure.
I like everyone was always very kind to me, but I definitely think that there was like a barrier that was put up just because of the wheelchair and like not really knowing the interactions and how to work around it and ignore it.
Yeah, yeah. I imagine I see people, and I mean, I've been ignorant to this as well in my life. Of just, I think people see it and they think they need to speak a different way to someone, or just
Mhm.
be so different around somebody that's wheelchair bound or that has a disability. And it's like, no, you don't at all. Just be normal and treat them like a human and keep moving along. It's no different.
Yeah. And I mean, really like the social perspective on disabilities has changed a lot in the last, I mean, like even since I was in college, it's changed and grown so much, partially through the Paralympic movement, partially through just like social activists and like people becoming more open-minded as
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me about your journey from all the way from 5 when this happened to Paralympian. I mean, that's pretty amazing.
uh I just like so started doing adaptive sports through a therapy, like doing therapy somewhere and just getting into like wheelchair basketball. And I did all the sports I could possibly do, like tennis and archery, table tennis, basketball, sled hockey, swimming. It just everything that I could play, I did. And I ended up being really successful in basketball and really loving it and kind of like took off in the sport. Came from in Minnesota, we have a great adaptive wheelchair basketball team and took off from that and just ended up stumbling into making a Paralympic team or a national team when I was 15. And then the next year went to the Paralympics in 2012 when I was 16.
Wow. That is
Yeah.
so amazing. Where were the Olympics that year?
In 2012, they were in London.
Oh, that's so neat. I love that.
Yeah, that
That's so
was,
amazing. And I grew up playing basketball, so when I saw you were playing basketball too, like that was my, I
oh,
loved playing
nice.
basketball growing up. So I was like, oh, that's so cool that you're on the Paralympic team playing basketball.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. What position did you play?
I played shooting guard.
Ah, nice. Okay, so same as me.
Yeah, yeah. I always wanted to be the best 3-point shooter, so I just that kind of worked out for me. I just kind of like camped out on the sides.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah,
That's the way to do it.
yeah. It was cool. I I clicked on your link because I was just reading up on your profile, and I was like, I wonder what this is. And then I was watching, and it's amazing to watch the game. I was like, I had to stop because I was almost late to speak with you because I was so into the game that I was watching. I was like, oh shit, I gotta go. I gotta go get on and talk to you. It was amazing. It was so fun to watch.
Oh, thank you. What game did you watch?
It was a link on your Instagram profile
Okay.
that you had. It was
I
a
wonder what
YouTube
it's.
video.
Oh,
It
okay.
was in Spanish, so I couldn't understand all of it.
Ah, that's fair.
Yeah.
I wonder what link I
So
have right now.
so you're playing professionally in Spain now? Is that
Yes,
where
I
you're
play professional over here. It's my full-time job right now.
That's so amazing. What part of Spain are you in?
So I live in Las Palmas, Gran Canaria, so in the Canary Islands off the coast of Morocco.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's I'm grateful that I ended up in such a cool spot.
Yeah, no kidding. How long have you been over there?
Well, it's technically my second season, but last year with COVID, it was kind of a half year here,
Okay.
so like a year and a half.
So yeah, what happened during all the COVID times? Were you still over there, or did you come back over here?
I was actually over here for most of it. So
Okay.
when we like first went into a lockdown, actually my parents were over here when we first went into a lockdown and had to like figure out how to get them home in March and like rush around with that. And then I ended up staying because it sounded like it was just they kept telling us it's just going to be 2 weeks. It's just going to be 2 weeks, and it hasn't been 2 weeks.
Right.
Uh, but we ended up like I was here in my apartment in Spain in complete lockdown for 7 weeks, and then an additional 3 weeks of like a moderate lockdown before I got to go home.
Wow. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I think we were all kind of sideswiped by that of like, oh, it's gonna be 2 weeks. Like I work in the music industry, and we were all thinking, oh, it's okay, we'll be back on tour in a couple months, and we'll be all right.
And
And
then have
that
you guys gotten to do
no,
nothing?
I mean, there's stuff opening up now, but it has been just completely decimated. I mean, I know so many industries and so many people have had incredibly tough times, but it's been a really bad time. I mean, concerts thrive on people getting together and being in very close proximity and singing and touching, and that's not good for us right now.
No, that's that doesn't that stinks. That's
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. We'll get back to it. I just want everyone to be safe and come back in a way that is good for everybody. You
oh,
know.
that's
How has your league come back um when now that so you're back playing, I'm guessing, right?
yeah, we're back playing. It's gone actually a lot better than we anticipated it going. I think like there's 10 teams in our league and like maybe four of them have had COVID, none of them too severe of like anyone, no one got too sick. And then we also like have been pretty much on track with all of our games. Just no fans really. Like on and off sometimes there'll be fans. Like we've I think maybe had two games where we could have like 15 people in the stand, but it's not the same.
Yeah. So I've been wondering this as I watch sports. How is it different from? Did you find it harder to play, or was it just kind of second nature just to keep go out without fans?
um I think it's uh, at first it was strange, like to not have fans around, especially like we have a pretty strong fan base here in the Canaries, so it was like it kind of stinked at the beginning, but you kind of get used to it. Like you just want to play basketball. So,
Yeah.
and I think the like the online presence has been really strong this season, and that's been kind of fun. Is like people getting so into watching games online, and that's almost been a positive for me because I live abroad, so it's not like any of my close friends and family were coming to my games anyways. And now that like watching things online have gotten so popular, they've been watching more games and feeling more support from home, which is nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there have been some silver linings through this whole pandemic, and that is one where everyone has had to figure out new avenues of this. So concerts, even, and then sports, like that's super rad. Now that it's such an important part of sports and music and all these new ways to watch. So that's super cool that they're able to watch more now.
It is kind of with the pandemic, the silver linings, like it's been beautiful to see like how humans can adapt and how human nature really is to strive on and strive forward. It's been like definitely a positive through all of it and something that we feel in sports right now, I think,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, it's been really cool. I think you're right of just watching the adaptability of like, okay, we want to still do this stuff. How do we do it?
Yes.
Now we stream it worldwide, and so now the people that live where you live can watch it still there, and then everyone around the world can, which is so
Yeah.
fun, so cool.
It is.
Um, how has it been as a woman in adaptive sports?
So wheelchair basketball is kind of an interesting sport in the sense that like there's not that many participants. It's like a fairly popular sport, probably the most popular disabled sport. But it also is, it kind of forces that men and women play alongside each other a lot. So there's a classification system. It's pretty complicated, but with the 5 players, everyone gets classed on how disabled they are. It goes from 1 point to 4.5 points in zero point 0.5 increments, and everyone gets like labeled a classification. So in the women's game, I'm a 3-5. So out of 5 players, you can't exceed 14 points. It's kind of complicated,
Okay.
but yeah. But another cool thing about the classification, we do that so it's as inclusive as it could be, because in wheelchair basketball you can have people that are like a knee injury, so they don't ever use a wheelchair besides when they're on the court, and you would never think that they're disabled, but they
Okay.
can't play able-bodied basketball. And then you would have all the way to like the lowest classification, which is someone that's paralyzed from like the chest down.
Mm, I
So
see. Okay.
yeah, it's a really cool concept to just get all disabilities playing together and being together. And
Wow.
another cool thing about it is that women can then go play in men's leagues, and we go down 1.5 points. So I get a reduction, and I'm like, you can play a higher point player with me in the men's league than you could in the women's league. So I actually play professionally. I'm playing on an all men's team over here, and I'm playing within a league that is like 95% males.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
That's
it's
so
pretty cool.
cool. Yeah. And man, okay, as when you first said it, I wasn't following you, but now that makes so much sense, and it is so beautiful to include everybody. Of like, okay, you can't score more than this amount of points, so you just don't dominate. I think that's brilliant.
No, not scoring, but
Oh,
like like everyone's disability comes into an amount of point. Like you could score as much as you want this
okay.
basketball, but like the 5 players, like for instance, right now we run like a 1 pointer who's someone that's disabled from the chest down. We play me, I play as a 2, so then we equal 3 points. And then we play a 4 that is someone, he's an amputee above the knee. He's missing his leg above the knee. So then 3 plus 4 equals 7 points. And then like, so we can go to 14. So then we have 7 more points to add in there. We can run a 4 and a 3.
Okay, okay.
Does that make
All
sense?
right. Yes. Now it
It's
does. Yes.
complicated.
I'm getting there. I was thinking like you could only score 14 points because you were disabled. I thought it was like once you hit that point you had to like keep passing and get more assists. That's where my mind went with the point system.
Okay. No, it's like adding up, like each player gets a number and you add it all together, and it can't go past 14.
Okay. Got you. That's
Just-
so that's amazing. I love it because it's something so foreign to me, but I get to learn about it now. That's so cool. So thank you for teaching me and walking me through the steps of my understanding with it.
it's like always something that people don't, when they come and watch wheelchair basketball, it's almost like before someone ever watches a game, they should like sit down for an educational, like just briefing of it.
Totally.
Because it just like it, when you come and watch a game, you can like be watching it, and as a basketball player, like you would see like one guy on the court that is a really small guy that looks really small, like is kind of like not really touching the ball, is kind of sealing and picking and doing different things. And then you would look at the bench and you'd see like all these big huge tall guys, and if you don't know anything, you would think, why aren't they playing over this little guy? But it's because it's kind of like in hockey how you have to have lineups,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to like stick to those lineups. Like we kind of have that in wheelchair basketball as well, just because like you can't sub a class 1 out for a 4-5. Like you can't sub someone that's paralyzed from the waist down out of the game to put in someone who's a like a below the knee amputee.
Wow. Okay. That's
So you
amazing.
there's like it makes basketball a little bit more strategic in the sense of like you have to, be doing the math on like who you can run together and figuring out lineups and those things.
Wow. That's incredible. Yeah, I think that's a brilliant thought of okay, before like pregame, when you all are warming up, everybody in the crowd that hasn't been to a game and thinks they know basketball, like myself, should have to sit there for a 5 minute run through because I think it would be so because I was watching it just as oh I love basketball so I'm going to watch this game and just kind of watch but I had no idea I was just watching it as I'm watching basketball this morning.
Yeah.
So what other differences are there? Is it the same fouls and all that, or what are some other differences that I wouldn't know?
um so fouling theoretically should be the same. The difference is that the chair is part of the body. So it's
Right.
like in contact, chair to chair contact is like just as physical as like body to body contact in able body basketball. Like kind of in the way that in able body basketball, you're always uh like hitting and touching each other and kind of grabbing jerseys and all of those things. Like wheelchair basketball is the same thing where you're always hitting chairs, you're always like kind of touching each other, like with your chairs though.
Yeah.
um but fouling is kind of in the same theory. Like a charge would be like if I'm a defender and someone runs into the side of my wheel, or like who's moving, who's not moving, kind of whatever the ref feels like it. As a
Yeah.
basketball player, it just depends on the ref.
Of course.
And then like traveling and double dribbles are something that's very different. So there's no double dribble, it doesn't exist in wheelchair basketball. So you can start and stop and go with the ball as often as you want. I don't
Okay.
really understand that concept in able body basketball that much, actually.
And as I was thinking about it, I was like, I don't know if I could explain it right now.
Yeah. And then we travel. So there is traveling in wheelchair basketball, but it's not like you can touch your wheels 2 times because we
Okay.
don't take steps, so they can't do it off steps,
Sure. Yeah.
obviously. But it's like, so even if you're turning, or even if you're sitting in place and you like touch your wheels 3 times, that's a travel.
Oh wow.
You have to like dribble the ball. But once you get up to a high level, like people are always, the ball is kind of always on the ground. Like people are always dribbling. They like, you put it in your lap sometimes, but not a ton.
Yeah. Yeah. I was man when I was watching it, I was just like, there was one that was on a fast break, and the dude was just like, whoa, and then just like threw up a layup, and I was like, it's really impressive to watch. And I was thinking the picking system, it looked very similar, but it was just people running into each other. And I was like, man, I imagine you probably get used to it, but I would think I would at the beginning probably hit my hand, like get my hands crunched a lot. Has that happened to you? Like between
Um,
chairs?
the way like the chairs are set up at an angle like this, like the wheels are angled
Mm,
out, so like your hands are always kind of like in, you don't really hit your hands
okay.
on stuff. Now like falling, because you watch the game, so you see that people fall a lot.
Yeah.
People are
Yeah.
like constantly on the ground and getting back up. I've definitely had where I've fallen and gotten my hands run over. or like in a
Oof.
chair or something like that. And that's not fun. But
Yeah, that does not sound fun. And that was one thing I did see quite a lot. And I was just watching people just like throwing themselves back up, and I was like, wow, that's amazing.
some people
And
can
it's
get up
fast
really fast.
pace. It wasn't like, okay, we're gonna stop the game, pick it up. It was like, nope, right back up.
Yes, some of the guys are really fast at getting up. It's impressive to see like it's like watching someone do a burpee.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
that quick.
Totally. I know the first time it happened, it was pretty quick into the game, and the guy just was like, boom, and it was basically like a rocket shot off push up, and it popped back up, and I went, wow, I that's incredible,
Yeah. Well,
incredible.
you kind of have to because if you're not in the play and falling over, so like if the play is happening on one side and you fall in transition on the other side, the refs do not stop the game for that.
Mm,
Like
yeah.
so if you can't get up quick, you're just going to be out of the play.
Wow. Okay, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So amazing. I love learning about this. And I like I said, I was when I was watching it, it was just I love watching basketball, so I was just enthralled with the game, but then I was just watching it from a different whole new lens this morning. So, um talk to me about what it felt like being on the court in the Paralympics. That just had to be, I mean, for me, I'm thinking when I was playing, I mean, every every person who's listening that ever played sports has had that dream of professional or whatever level they thought they would get to. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I mean, like that was a dream of mine since I started playing basketball when I was 7 years old. So going to that first games, you always people talk to you and they try to prepare you for like how many fans are going to be there, how loud it's going to be, what like just that like level of how professional and just like a dream it is. And you always think you're ready, but once you go to it, it far exceeds any expectations I ever could have had for it. Like the first time getting on court and feeling how big like 8,000 fans feels or 10,000 fans feels, it was absolutely incredible. And even like as the tournament went on and we started having really exciting games, like I remember in the my first Paralympics in London, we were playing China in a pool play game and we got down by like 21 in the third quarter, which is so much. And we ended up like bringing it back and going into a double overtime with them. So it
Wow.
was a really exciting game. And I just remember like we were playing, I think, in the stadium that had like 10,000 fans. And I remember having a teammate sitting like a foot and a half, 2 feet away from me, yelling at me, and I couldn't hear anything she was saying. It just that
Dang.
energy is so amazing to be a part of.
That's so neat. That's so neat. I think the most I ever played in front of was like 1,000 in high school, and it was still like I couldn't believe it. I mean, because our gym was pretty small, and then we went to a state tournament in Ohio, and I remember it being so loud, and it was like 1,000 people. So I
Oh,
can't even imagine an Olympic stage with 10,000 people. It just like had to be deafening.
yeah, it was. I mean, anything over like 200 just starts feeling like there are so many people here. But I think the thing, like, really, there wasn't that much of a difference in the noise. It's loud no matter what. I think the thing that was like different for me was I have a dad who has a loud voice and is always yelling during games. The fact that I couldn't hear him during games, but I could see him yelling, that was like the thing that was weird to me.
Sure. Yeah, I can. You're like, I can't hear you, Dad. Yeah, I don't know what you're saying. Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. And so they I'm sure came to all of your Olympic games.
Yeah, they went to 2012 and 2016, but they won't be able to go to Tokyo this year, which is too bad.
Oh yeah. So are you able to go then?
Yeah, I'll be if the games go on, I will
Sure.
be on the team that's going this year.
That's so cool. That's so
Yeah.
cool. I'm just like putting myself in that situation, and I'm like, I can't even fathom that you're getting to play professionally and on the Olympic level. That's so amazing. So
Thank you.
amazing.
I'm definitely grateful that I've gotten these opportunities. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I imagine growing up in small town Minnesota. I grew up in a small town in Ohio, not quite as small as where you grew up, but I just have to imagine looking back at it. It's like, how did I get here? A little bit. I know you have pride in yourself, and you're incredibly talented and you have this will and strength, but there has to be a time when you're like, how I'm going to Tokyo this year, as long as it's happening, to play a sport that I've loved since I was little. It's got to be pretty amazing to look back at life's journey.
Yeah, I've definitely had that. I guess like I've always like contributed that to just kind of like my brothers and just like I'm a spiritual person, and I think that like their will and their souls kind of like guided me to this place and kind of kept me pushing and kept me motivated. And like I think that I have like someone looking after me and looking over me and leading me in a good direction. And that's what I think, at least.
No, I fully believe that. I fully believe that. Got your two brothers just propelling you forward. I love that.
Yeah,
That's
and
so
it's like extra motivation for me just
yeah.
to like kind of be like felt spared and know that I have to do something with it. My entire life I've kind of like had that type of feeling and like need for dedication to sports and advocating and like trying to change the world a little bit.
Yeah. I love it. And I read a post that you had on there that was advocating for women in sports. And I know it came out as I was watching the NCAA tournaments recently. And it was just unbelievable to see. And I know it's been happening forever, like between the women's facilities and the men's facilities. And it's just like, come on, man. It's so ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, women athletes are always kind of it's changing, it's getting better. Like the world is like I've actually read a poem today by Ruby Carr that was basically like the world is undressing itself and changing into something a little bit more uncomfortable, but a little bit more like equal.
Yeah.
And I think that's happening, that the world is changing, but also like you still see those moments where you just like women's sports shouldn't be pushed to the side. We should be getting the same exact exposure and resources and opportunities as the men are. And that just seeing that from the NCAA, something that like college sports have always been so much about equality. Like Title IX made it so women's sports and men's sports have to be equal. And then to go to the biggest competition in the college sports and it not be is just was absurd.
Yeah. And again, with my ignorance, I didn't realize that this year was the first year that every single women's tournament game was aired on TV. I didn't even realize before that some hadn't even been aired until I don't know what round it was, but the like first round games weren't even played on TV. And I was like, dude, from the second like the play-in games, since those came into effect in March Madness, for men, it's been on like every single one has been on. And this was the first year for women that it was all aired. I was like, that's again just so ridiculous.
Yeah, it's and like basketball is probably one of the sports where you see more equality than other sports. Like I would like hockey. How when have you ever seen a women's hockey game on TV? Like
Right.
how often do you see softball on TV? How there's a lot of sports that basketball is kind of the is a sport leading the charge in equality or somewhat. I mean, you have individual sports that are have always been really good at that. Like track is awesome with it, swimming is, tennis is, it's like soccer, women's soccer is
Yeah.
bigger in the US than men's soccer, but
Oh
like
yeah.
in like basketball is one of the more equal sports, but it's still far behind what it should be.
Yeah. Yeah. yeah, the more I looked into it, especially this year, I was just like, oh, come on, guys. Like, and yeah, I just, I don't think there should be any gap in between it. That's so ridiculous. It's sports. So if you're going to put this much money into it, and I think with the NCAA, it's a non-profit or not for profit, and I'm like, you're making so much money off these kids that aren't making money. Like, you have the
Yeah.
money to put into women's facilities. It's not a matter of, oh, we just didn't have the money to do both. Like, yes, you do. College football brings in billions of dollars. You can afford to spread it around equally.
Well, and if you have a sum of $10,000 to spend on a weight thing, why do you think that you should spend 9,000 of it on the men's? Like, you 5,000 would have been adequate. Like, I'm just making up numbers here, obviously, but you see that a lot where they're like, well, we only have this amount of funding, so we're going to spend all of it on the guys. And like, even if it's a small budget, it should be split equally.
Yeah, 100%.
And
100%.
like, talking about that, actually, like in wheelchair basketball, it's nice that we have the opportunity to play with men's, but we don't have a lot of opportunities to play only with women, which is
Hmm.
actually something that is kind of like at fault to this, like, a fault of the system, is that, like, yeah, I get the opportunity to be over here, but I think the only female in the league that gets playing time and plays like adequate important minutes for their team. In the Spanish league and other leagues, they have like a couple women that are really important, but it definitely isn't as even over here as it should be. I mean, 95% is male.
Hmm. Yeah, it's just mind blowing. It's like, I don't understand how there's still such a gap in the mindset, all even in the mindset of it.
Yeah, in the like, I feel that a lot with like being an athlete that's come over and kind of proven myself just simply as an athlete, and struggling with on the court being viewed as, oh, like, people looking past the female and just seeing me as the basketball player I am, is something that, like, I've been like, there's a lot of my teammates are really awesome, but I also like do struggle with that some, which the like struggle with equality is always, I think, is always going to be there, and it just takes like more women pushing past it and kind of being hard-headed and stubborn
Yeah.
with what they deserve.
Yeah. And just being the badasses that they are.
Yes. being
And just showing that, because they are,
being
you are. You're a badass, and I love that you're over there as the small 5% that's pushing forward for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's
It's
super awesome. Um, so shifting gears a little bit, what's your favorite part about living abroad? And I know it's been a little different because of the year that you've experienced over there, but what's been your favorite part about living abroad?
um Well, I live next to the ocean, so probably it's hard not to say the ocean for me personally, but aside from that, probably like getting to learn a different culture, like getting to learn Spanish and being surrounded from by people that are from all over the world. I have teammates from like everywhere. So just getting to be exposed to so many cultures is my favorite thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I miss the most about normality was that I got to travel a ton. I was very fortunate. And so I miss the cultures. I miss meeting people from all over the world and just like getting in and feeling that culture and that love and just being in a different place. And even if I don't know the language, just letting that poetry flow over my head and just loving it. So did you know Spanish when you went over there, or are you currently learning?
Uh, I'm currently learning.
Okay.
I actually didn't speak any Spanish at all when I came over here. So it's been an interesting 2 years learning.
Yeah. Has it been better because you're in the culture and you're in a place that speaks it?
Uh, yeah, I live in a very like touristy part, and even with COVID going on, there's still a lot of like English speakers around. So just at restaurants, like forcing people to speak Spanish with me is sometimes trying, but I definitely, it's a lot easier being in the culture. Like
Yeah.
I grew up learning German, and like when I came over here, I was like pretty conversational in it. And then once kind of I moved here, I think in the last like year of really trying to learn Spanish that I'm probably more conversational in Spanish than I am German,
Oh, that's so
which
cool.
is crazy because I spent like 4 years trying to 5 years learning German, and like after a year of living in Spain, I feel more comfortable in that language.
That's so cool. And it's one thing growing up in a small town that I wish had been presented more to me is that here's why language is important.
Yes.
It wasn't presented to me that way. It was like, oh, if you want to, you can take Spanish. And it's just another language. It wasn't like, hey, if you go travel, or it is spoken all over the world and it would be very helpful for you to learn it. It wasn't that. It was just like, oh, yeah, you can do it if you want.
Yeah. Languages in general in the US, I think, are just overlooked. Like we think if we speak English, we're good enough and that. And like when you move over, like moving over to Europe, I realized how much like languages are, I think, one of the most important skills that someone can learn because it opens up new worlds to you.
Yeah. Yeah, you get to a little place that only speaks. I mean, yes, we are very fortunate to speak English, and majority of the world does, even if it's a little broken and it takes a little bit to understand. Majority does, and we're very fortunate for that. But when you get to those little places, it would be so nice just to speak the language and not have to worry about them feeling less confident or whatever it may be. Just getting there and adapting to their language. I wish
Hmm.
I could do that.
Yeah, that would be nice if our school systems taught us more so we could.
Yeah.
It's just like stepping into a new universe through like learning a different language. It's like beautiful. Like you open up to, like you talked about like poetry and philosophers and authors. It's not the same if you don't read it in their language. And when you can step into that like artistic culture and world and like traditions and stuff, it's like it's great for human beings. But
Yeah.
I definitely wish the same, like growing up in a small town, that I would have grown up speaking multiple languages.
Yeah. Yeah, I always say if there is one thing I could have told little Nick, one thing I could have ever changed, and I wouldn't have changed anything else. I would just say, dude, be a language nerd. Be that kid that was just learning every language, and everyone would be like, "What are you doing?" But just learn everything, adapt, just to have that knowledge.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I always think the same about my childhood. I wish I would have told myself to like learn languages.
Yeah, I know, and I always get the question of, "What would your superpower be?" And I would say to literally have the superpower to know every single language. So if I walked into whatever place in the world and they were speaking some language I'd never heard, that I could just like spin my brain and then speak their language. And just,
You wouldn't pick teleporting,
I mean, those are all amazing, but I just think like
the
there's there's
language.
there's so many ways to get places now that I'm like, okay, I can get anywhere if I if I figure it out, I can get anywhere. But if I
Mhm.
could learn, like, if I could go in the middle of Papua New Guinea and there's a tribe that not over 100 people know their language, and I could go there and just speak with them,
Yeah, that would be
that would be
cool.
amazing. And just, they have no way to communicate with me unless I knew their language, and then I could communicate with them. That would just be the most mind blowing opening part for me. I mean, flying would be rad. All of answers are fantastic, but I think that would be so
The
amazing.
I always like, I feel like teleportation, just being able to like snap my fingers and go home and then snap my fingers and be back here. That would be awesome.
It would be rad. I know. I'm thinking. I was thinking the other day. I was a friend of mine graduated from a school program in South Africa. So my partner and I woke up at 4 a.m. We propped our computer open and we watched him graduate in South Africa, which was super
Oh,
rad. And we're speaking. You're in Spain. I'm in Nashville. And I was going, Man, it would be really nice to just be like, hey, I'm coming over. I'll be over. We're going to have this chat, and then I'll just pop back over here wherever I need to go next. And it would be amazing. I would love that. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I could get down with that. I could get
Yeah.
down with that. I'll take both. If we're doing superpowers, then I could have both then.
Yeah, like I don't need to be like super flexible or super strong or super fast. I just like want things that contribute to traveling.
Yeah. Perfect segue to a question I ask everybody on this podcast is if I came to you and I said, Rose, I have a plane ticket to anywhere in the world, where would you go to?
Mm, it's so hard for me to not be like, I'm going home for the weekend, but because obviously I want to go home for the weekend whenever I can. But if I could go anywhere in the world that I haven't been to, hmm, like maybe a place like somewhere in the Middle East. Like that's a culture I haven't gotten much exposure to. So like maybe Saudi Arabia or like even not somewhere over there.
Yeah, it'd be amazing. I love that. I think it's so important for growth as a human to go to those places where you just haven't been exposed to it. I remember I went to Istanbul and I was like, I just had never been to that kind of culture before. And it was just so beautiful. Like when the calls to prayer happened, it didn't matter if you were worshiping or you cared about the religion. Everyone stopped. Everyone was quiet. It was so respectful. And I was just like, man, this is really unbelievably beautiful. And I just
That
never
is,
been a part of that. I mean,
that
we
is
were at bars and we were at restaurants, and it was literally like the calls to prayer came out and it was so loud, and then everyone just stopped and gave the respect for 5 minutes, and it was so beautiful.
oh, that is really beautiful. Like I have a really good friend who's Egyptian, and I went to visit him last December and like sitting on the top of Cairo overlooking the city when the prayer call came. And it's such a big, like Cairo's so massive, and it's kind of like a city that like people are moving around so much that the dust is kicking up. If you're on top of, if you're looking into Cairo, just like dust is all over the place, kind of it feels like. And like the prayer call coming, like you said, in a city that's so busy, like quieting down, and you could even see like kind of the dust lowering from everyone stopping. It was just beautiful to see.
Oh man, that's so cool. I've always wanted to go to Cairo. That's so amazing you've been there.
It was like I almost said like I want to go back to Egypt because I just loved it so much.
Yeah, it's one that's come up quite a few times. I mean, Japan is a normal answer, which I want to go to Japan, which hopefully you get to go to this year, which will be amazing. Um, but yeah, Egypt comes up a lot, so that's so rad that you've gotten to experience that.
I can see like those like people wanting to go to places where the culture is just completely different than to like westernized culture. It like it's hard to if you could go anywhere to pick one that is something that might be a little bit normal.
Right. I know. And I think that because a lot of people have said Australia too, which I fully understand. I want to go to Australia very badly. There's not many places in the world that I don't want to go, so I fully understand all answers. I'm like, yeah, of course. And in my mind, I'm Oprah and just giving out plane tickets. I'm just like, you get this, you go there, you go there. You want to go to 5 places, you get to go to all of them. But yeah, I would, if I was given a play, it would be to somewhere so different that would be really a challenge to get to, and somewhere that I would just like be mind blown, which happens most times I travel. But yeah,
Hmm.
I'm with you on that.
It's kind of like fun though when you travel to some place that you think is going to be entirely different and you're mind blown for a second, and then you start to like notice like similarities and start to realize that everyone's kind of the same everywhere
Isn't that
in,
beautiful?
in a, yeah, in a really beautiful way.
Yeah, yeah, and that's another reason I wanted to start having these conversations is to show that because when I've traveled, I've met so many amazing people, and I was like, man, I wish I could just have a conversation and let someone be a fly on the wall and listen to them to think, about someone in Estonia that I met in 2019 who speaks Russian, Estonian, and English, and she learned English 4 years ago. And we get to have a conversation, just a normal conversation about
That's
her life, her growing up, and of course, it's completely different than what we grew up in the States. And she grew up LGBTQ in a very unaccepting culture for that. And it was like, if you just listen and you talk to people and you go to their cultures, yes, you're going to be like, oh my God, this is so different. But then when you start to meet these people and you start to see what life looks like, it's really very beautiful and pretty similar.
yeah. Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah. So I really love just opening the door and being like, hey, let's have these conversations. We all need to have them. We all need to open our minds to new things as much as we can.
Hmm.
Learning the differences about basketball that I didn't know today. That's a beautiful thing to learn. And for people listening, to have those thoughts for the first time, and then think about your beautiful story about Egypt. I mean, how cool, and to want to go experience those things. And it's not that scary. Like getting there, it can be, yeah, a little nerve wracking at first, but then it's like just get in there and meet some people, and you'll find so much beauty around the world.
Yes, you find beautiful places, scenery, and mostly beautiful people everywhere you go.
Yeah, I mean, of course, there's bad apples all around the world.
Hmm.
That will happen, but I mean, when you open yourself and give yourself that, you come with respect and you want to adapt into the culture, you'll find people just wanting to show off their culture to you. That's one beautiful thing I find everywhere in the world that I go. When you come in and you just see their place and they want to show you every last part.
Yeah, they want to show it off and be accommodating.
Yeah. My partner and I think you'll appreciate this coming from a small town in Minnesota, but we went to a small village in Germany, in southern Germany, and it was very rolling hills. It kind of looked Midwestern a little bit. And we met this man, and he was just the sweetest, kindest dude. And he was getting very drunk at the bar, that were the local bar, and we were just hanging out, having a really good time. And they were the whole time just being like, "How do you like Europe?" And we're like, "Oh, we love Europe. It's great." And then they would be like, "Germany. How do you like Germany?" And I was like, "Oh man, we love Germany." And then he'd be like, "Remlingen. You like our village?" And we were like, "Oh, it's so nice. It's so peaceful." And he goes, "Tomorrow, you come to my shop." And so he just told us where it was, and it was a tractor company. And so
Oh,
me growing up in Ohio, I was like, dude, you're speaking my language. Like, I love tractors growing up. My grandfather was obsessed with tractors. And so he showed us around his shop, and he was like, this is where the employee of the month sits. And this was
oh,
my dad's place. And so I'm second generation. And it was so cool to just have that experience. And most people would be like, it's a tractor shop. But I was like, this man was so proud to show off his shop to us. And it was so beautiful.
yeah, and it's not like it's off the beaten like path, like something that's like so genuine and like really actually what Germany, like small town Germany is. It's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And like just the pride. And he was just like, you're from Nashville. That's so cool. Like he was just so happy to show somebody from across the world his place. And I was just like, those are the moments that I just strive for when I go traveling. It's to open myself to be like, who's gonna show me their local tractor shop?
I love that goal. Who's
Yeah.
gonna show me through?
Yeah.
That's
What do you
great.
got to show me? I want to see it all. Um so I have two more questions for you, and then
Okay.
I'll let you get back to your beach day. Um, First one is, what would you want the world to know about you?
Um, ooh, that's a tough one, right?
Yeah, it's a tough one.
Um, what I would want the world to know about me. I don't know. I get just because I have a disability doesn't mean I'm not strong and powerful is probably the biggest thing. And then like even from within being a disabled athlete that is successful, is that I still have like my vulnerabilities, and that like I have taken those and actually used that to be strengths of mine, and that like as humans accepting our weaknesses and our vulnerabilities and kind of being raw and truthful and authentic with ourselves, we can like be more successful and love ourselves more. And that's kind of the goal of life.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's so beautiful. Such a powerful message in every part of that.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, because I think I think most people want that. They want self-love. They want to be successful. They want to be seen as powerful and be seen and heard. And I think it's so incredible the message that you have and everything you're doing, and it's just beautiful.
Thank you. I think like growing up with a disability, I had to like fight a lot to like be seen as capable, or like
Sure.
be seen. And then even now, like playing in an all men's league, I feel like I always have to fight for that. And I hit a certain point where it was like I can just decide for myself that I am those things. And once I like start believing it, I like slowly started seeing other people believing it as well. And just society is gonna come along with what you believe in yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I love that. I love the self-empowerment of all of that, because it's such a big part of life that you just what you're dealt with is what you're dealt with, and life comes at you fast, and you've got to love yourself, or it's hard to convince other people to come along on your journey if you're self-hating and self-loathing.
Yeah, that like
Doesn't really work. It's pretty hard to be like, hey, follow me, love me, when you're like super angry and hateful towards yourself.
yeah. And then I mean, like if they say like treat other people, or like treat yourself how you treat other people, but really I kind of think it's like the opposite. Like how you treat yourself is how you end up treating other people.
Yeah.
And like if you're kind of like giving yourself that negative energy, I think you're going to pass it off to other people. So you just might as well like figure out a way to love yourself however it is.
Yeah. Yeah, through anything, you have to find that self love. Because, yeah, I mean, I've been through really tough parts of life where I was just in a really bad space and I was not treating people well because I wasn't treating myself well. I was just in a bad shape, and I wasn't putting out any any sort of love to people.
Because you're just like struggling so much with yourself. Yeah. And sounds easier said than done. Like I think everyone goes through those
Yeah.
moments where you just kind of don't like yourself.
Yeah. So, what keeps you striving for that? What keeps you strong in that?
Mm, like I bring up my family a lot. I think they are really motivating to me. Um, I don't know, like playful time, like realizing that life is fun and playful, and doing like silly things to keep like when we were children, we used to always you would have playtime, and life somewhere got so serious that it stopped having that. And
Yeah.
I don't know. Like today I bought a bucket hat, and look at how cool it is.
I
But it's
love
so
it.
dirty and I love it.
It's fantastic. Yeah. That
Like
is so true.
playtime is important.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm hoping as well. We talked about a little bit about silver linings through this pandemic. What I hope is that people come out of this with an appreciation of time again, because what was it was said so many times, oh, I don't have time for this, I can't, I don't have time, I don't have time.
Mm,
Now we have had an abundance of time. We have had nothing but time. So I'm hoping that people have enjoyed at least the slowdown to take a look at life and say, what was truly important? Where was I putting my time? What energy was I putting towards this and this and this? I hope people have looked, and when we all spring back to whatever it's going to look like after COVID, and I hope
mhm.
I hope they took the time just to reevaluate. So it was a good time for that. If nothing else, it was a good time to look at life and go, what's important?
Yeah, like the slow down into self-reflection is, yeah, is, I think I agree with you. Really cool.
Yeah. I mean, how there's been so many times where I've thought in my life, if I could just pause, I just need it to stop for 5 seconds. Just give me that breath and like take a step back, and then we got it. So it's like, what have we all done with that time? Where did we go? What did we do? What positives can we bring forward from there? That's what I think, and what I hope that people are looking forward to.
Yeah, that is nice. And like person to person, like friendships, like when we were in like real time, I think you would go like weeks without seeing one of your closest friends without realizing. And then when the pandemic hit, you started to notice like how little time you really did spend on that relation, like, and on that connection that was so important,
Yeah.
that I hope like those things become more valuable to people as well.
Yeah, and like you said, playtime. I think that's such a fun way to reflect back onto kids. Just think about as kids, man. We just went out and ran around. I mean, you grew up in a small town, so we had to figure out what was fun. We had to make our own fun. And I think
Yeah.
we lose that so much as adults. It's like we gotta work, we gotta do this, we gotta do this, we gotta do this. And it's like, why not enjoy life? Because as
Yeah.
much as we know, we get this one shot at it. So why not just live it to the fullest and truly enjoy ourselves and not just work, 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 work. We gotta that's one part that I'm just like, I hope this pause was like, all right, I need to do more for myself and less for work. Because if there's one good thing about a greedy society is that there's money to be made all the time.
Yes. That
There's always more money to be made. We live in a very greedy world, so you can always come back and make more money.
And you don't need as much money as you thought.
Right.
I also think I've learned that, is that you never need to make as much as you think you do.
Right. And I mean, I had quick little dive into my story. Like a little over 2.5 years ago, I was at the beginning stages of liver failure, and I was told I might not have a night left on this earth. And I'll tell you what I wasn't thinking about when I was told that at 33 years old. I wasn't thinking about what my bank account looked like. I was thinking about the experiences that I had and the life that I lived. And it wasn't like, oh, I had this job, and I worked this many hours. It was like, okay, where did I go? What did I see? What experiences did I have in life? It
Hmm.
wasn't anything monetary. It wasn't, oh, well, what is my Ferrari going to do when I pass along? It's like, no, it was like, what experiences did I get to have? What life did I live? And how did I live it? So
Hmm.
when I was moving forward into sobriety, that was what I was looking at, is like, I need to live a life that's fulfilling to me and enjoy it and have playtime all the time or as much as
Playtime
I
all the
can.
time.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is like almost people that have like these near death like instances in life seem to have like a perspective of like realizing how important that is. And like I think you can obviously say for that. And then like mine was when I was so young, but I also think like that was a blessing with my disabilities, that it kind of gave me that like perspective of what's meaningful, and that like happiness is what's most important.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. You got to be happy. And
Yeah.
I just don't understand putting yourself in situations that completely make you miserable nonstop. Like, what
And
life?
yeah, and like some people just love to be like a victim, or love to be like, and I think maybe it's just they haven't like tasted like what, like that type of happiness and fulfillment.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm hoping that's what I'm hoping to spread around with these conversations, with this life that I was fortunate enough to keep living. So I'm hopeful that people can adapt and learn and figure out that in life is just do what makes you happy, and don't worry so much about the monetary and the jobs. Like, be with your friends, be with your family, be with do what makes you happy. Have more playtime.
Be present. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Stop worrying about the future too. I mean, a really cool quote that I read one time, and I'm probably going to butcher it, but it was like, imagining yourself in the future is incredibly hopeful.
Imagining yourself in the future is incredibly hopeful.
Because you have no idea.
Yeah.
You have no idea what's coming at you. You know, it's like, so be present, enjoy, do what makes you happy now.
Hmm. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah. All right. Last question for you. If you had the ear of everybody in the world, what would you say to them?
I feel like we've said most of it, the like positive energy and self-love and just appreciating yourself and like languages and cultures and learning and like all of those things that we've already touched on are really important. Um I don't know, hug your loved ones like everyone says all the time. Love
Yeah.
and cherish each other. I don't know, we've
Yeah.
touched on all of it.
Yep. Yeah. Um, all right. So, anybody listening now, where can they find you if they want to connect with you?
So Instagram, my handle is rholler54, right? I think.
Yeah. 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 And I'll put it in the show notes too.
Okay. And then watch the Paralympics.
I was going to say, how is it? This is my ignorance in my questioning. Is it at the same time, and is it aired at the same time as the
Uh,
Olympics?
it, so the Olympics happen like it's same facilities, same everything, but the Olympics happen 2 weeks before we do.
Okay.
So everyone always, I don't know if you seen like we're athletes, so we love to shit talk a little bit, but like always during the Olympics, like Paralympics always put out like advertisements and stuff like thanks for the warm up. Like, isn't
Yes.
that awesome? I think that's
So
awesome.
good. Yes. 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 I love that.
But yeah, the Olympics will make sure things are good for us, and then the
Cool.
show will go on after them 2 weeks.
The real show begins.
The real show begins.
Hell yeah. I love that. They'll warm it up for you, and then you'll come in and show the world what's up.
Yeah. So like that should be beginning of September
Okay.
2021. And
Fantastic.
NBC should be broadcasting a lot of it. It
Awesome.
like they show a lot. And then if you want to watch Spanish League, you can find us on YouTube at ADM Econi is
Okay.
our YouTube page.
Cool. Yeah, and I'll get that info from you, and I'll put that in there as well when this comes out, so people can tune in.
Nice. Thank you. That would be awesome.
Yeah, like I said, I put it on this morning. I just clicked on the link to see what it was, and I was almost late to our conversation because I was watching it, and I was loving it because I love basketball, and then I was learning, and then I got to learn so much more from you. So I thank you for that, for educating me today and having this beautiful conversation with me.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm glad that you thought of me for such a thing.
Yeah, it was cool. I started working recently with a nonprofit called We Carry Kevin.
Okay.
It's a friend of mine that I met 10 years ago. He was a fan of a band that I was working with, and we became friends. And he has spinal muscular atrophy. And he and his friends, well, he had a dream of backpacking through Europe, which in a wheelchair is damn near impossible, if not
Yeah.
impossible. So he and his friends made a backpack for themselves, but then they partnered with a company called Deuter to actually make a pack called a We Carry Kevin pack. And they have backpacked through Europe with Kevin on their back. He has the most incredible friends in the world.
Wow, that's so cool.
And then they went to the Great Wall of China and have carried him on their backs through that journey. So they've been all over the world with this pack with Kevin on their back. And when they go, they don't take caretakers. They take care of him. They carry him. They don't take a wheelchair. It is 100% with this pack. So they started a
Wow,
nonprofit making these packs, and their goal is to redefine accessibility.
that
So
is super cool.
I have been on a very big journey to learn about accessibility. And so I was just like finding all these incredible stories. And then I came across you and I was like, oh my God, I have to talk to Rose.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. So I'm thrilled that you had the time to chat with me and came on, and it's been super fun chatting with you. I feel like we were old friends, just catching up.
Yeah, it does feel like the similarities from someone you don't know. It's very fun.
Right. And that's the beautiful thing is I love coming into a conversation with a perfect stranger and then finding these similarities that you never know, and having an hour long conversation and just figuring out what you have in common, what you don't, what you can learn from that person. There's so much to learn from every human.
Yeah, that's I'm gonna look that up. Backpack Kevin or
We Carry Kevin. I'll send you the link.
We
Or if
Carry
you just look
Kevin.
up
Okay.
on Instagram, it's just We Carry Kevin. And I run the social media, so it's sharing family stories from all over the world who are getting accessibility for the first time with these packs to carry their loved ones around or their friends around. And it's really so enriching to my life and so eye-opening to the ignorance that I had to this whole world of accessibility.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Yeah.
That
So I
okay.
figured if I was that ignorant to it, then I guarantee a lot more people are. So I wanted to showcase people with beautiful stories
Oh,
in that world. So thank you for sharing yours. It's been so fun.
thank you for doing this. It's awesome. It has
Yeah.
been very fun.
Yeah. So yeah, I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day, and I look forward to watching you in the Olympics, the Paralympics, the after the warm up Olympics happen.
Yeah, after the warm up
Yeah,
happens.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. So I've again, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Beautifully Human podcast. To hear more beautiful stories from beautiful humans, follow us on Spotify and rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at the Beautifully Human Podcast. Peace signs up.